Hey guys, today I'm going to be showing you how to make this super cute lily pad coaster that is perfect for beginners. It only requires a few simple stitches and it is super fast to work up. And by the end, you'll have a super adorable coaster that is super functional and the perfect gift, honestly, if you're looking for something quick and fast to make for a friend. So all you're going to need to complete this project is a green yarn of your choice. I'm using this Wait For acrylic yarn by the brand Loops and Threads. And then another color yarn that is going to be for the flower, and I'm just using this dusty pink that is also a Wait For acrylic yarn by the brand Loops and Threads. And I'm going to be using a 4.5mm crochet hook, and then you're also going to need something to cut with, so just a pair of scissors and then a darning needle to weave in all of your loose ends. So we are going to be starting off with our green yarn. And we are going to be making a magic circle, but I promise it is not as difficult as most people say that it is. I like to put the yarn over two of my fingers, and then I hold it down with my thumb, and then I take the working yarn and I wrap it around my finger, and then I make it so that I cross the yarn over the tail end and I'm making like an X shape. And then from there, I twist my fingers around while holding this yarn here, so then I now have two strands that are laying on the top of my two fingers. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to rest this working yarn on my ring finger and then hold it down with my pinky. I'm going to take my hook and put it underneath the right strand and then go over the left one and pull it under and through. And then what we're going to do is rotate our crochet hook forward so that then we make a loop on our hook. And then we're going to go from left to right underneath this working yarn that's being held by our pinky. So we're going to go underneath the yarn through to the right side, and now you have a yarn over on your hook, and then you're just going to pull that through the loop on our hook. And now when you pull it tight, you now have the first chain, and you can pull your fingers out. You now have the first chain on our magic circle. And now, to start the pattern, we are going to chain again. So then we have two chains in our magic circle. And then from here, to begin our round, we're going to do 12 double crochet into this circle. So I will show you. To do a double crochet, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook into the circle, grab our yarn again, pull through. So then you should have 3 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over, pull this loop through 2 loops on our hook. So then now we only have 2 loops on the hook once again, and we're going to yarn over and then pull this through the last 2 loops on our hook. And there you have it. We have now completed our first double crochet of 12. So I will show you again how to do another double crochet. We will yarn over, insert our hook into our magic circle, grab the yarn on the other end, so then we have 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull that loop through the first 2 loops on our hook. We're left with 2 loops, yarn over again, pull the yarn through the last 2 loops on our hook, and there we have it. We have the first chain 2, our first double crochet, and another double crochet. And now, so we have our first 2 double crochet in our circle, so I'm going to go on and finish the last 10 in our round, so that we're ended with 12 double crochet. So I now have the 12 double crochet into our magic circle, and what I'm going to do is take the tail end. If you haven't pulled it already, we are now going to be pulling it close, so then our double crochets join together to make a perfect circle. And so to end our first round, we are going to do a slip stitch into the first double crochet that we made in this round. So I'm just going to insert my hook into the V of that first double crochet, yarn over, pull through a loop, and then I'm going to take this loop and pull it through our loop already on our hook. So now that we've done a slip stitch, we're going to begin each round with another chain 2. So I'm going to just chain 1, 2, and then now we are going to do an increase in every single stitch. So Once again, I'm going to do a double crochet into where we performed our slip stitch because that was the first double crochet of the previous round. So I'm going to insert my hook here and do 1 double crochet, and then, like I mentioned, to do an increase, we're going to do another double crochet into that same hole. So as you can see here, we have 2 double crochets going into 1 stitch. And so from here, we're going to do 2 double crochets in each of the 12 stitches in our round, and so by the end, our stitch count is going to increase from 12 double crochet to 24. So I have just completed the final increase in our round, and I'm left with 24 double crochet stitches. And so once again, to close this round, I'm going to insert our hook into the first double crochet of the round, and then perform a slip stitch and pull it tight. And now we're moving on to round 3, which is going to begin the exact same way as the previous rounds, where we are going to do a chain 2. Now, the sequence that we are going to follow for this round is going to be an increase followed by a regular double crochet in the next stitch. So it's going to go increase double crochet all the way around until this time we're going to be left with 36 stitches instead of 24. So to demonstrate that, we are going to start by doing a double crochet into the same stitch that we did the slip stitch into, and then we're going to insert another double crochet into that same stitch to do our increase. And instead of doing an increase in the next stitch, we are just going to do 1 double crochet. We're going to repeat this all the way around the sequence of an increase and then 1 single double crochet until we are left with 36 double crochets. I have now completed the last double crochet of this round, and I now have 36 stitches. And we are now working on the cutout part of the lily pad. So to finish this round off, we are actually not going to be doing our slip stitch, and instead we are going to chain 2, turn our work over so that we can continue our next row without closing our gap. And so we have our chain 2, and we are going to now perform a sequence of an increase and then 1 double crochet followed by another double crochet. So it will go 2 in the first stitch, then 1, 1. And we're going to be repeating this all the way around, just like the previous rows. And so I will demonstrate. We'll do 1 double crochet into the first stitch, and then do a second one in the same stitch to do our increase. So now we have 2 double crochet in the same stitch, and then we're going to do 1 double crochet into the next stitch, and then another double crochet into the stitch following after that. So you can see that it is increased, so 2, 1, 1. And we're going to repeat this all the way around once again, until this time we're going to be left with 48 stitches in our round. Now that I have finished the final double crochet of my round, I have 48 double crochets, and we basically have our completed lily pad shape. But to give it a more finished edge, what I'm going to do for this next row is chain 1 and turn our work once again. And we are going to do single crochets all the way around, and we are even going to single crochet along the pointed edge of our lily pad. I'm just going to insert my hook into the first double crochet stitch of the previous row, yarn over, pull through, and make a single crochet, and then I'm just going to single crochet all the way down and around our lily pad. No increases, nothing, just 1 single crochet into each stitch. So now that we have done a single crochet in every stitch all the way around, we are now going to insert 2 single crochets into every double crochet along this edge. So I'm just going to insert my hook into this double crochet of the previous round and add 1 single crochet, and then you could just insert it wherever it fits, but then add another single crochet, and then we are now going to add another one. I see there's a gap right here in the double crochets of the round before that. So I'm just going to insert my hook here, put a single crochet into that gap. It's okay if this isn't perfect or anything, you can eyeball where you want to put the single crochet. As long as you're going along this edge, it's still going to look great. And then we'll now get down to the base of where we stopped connecting our slip stitches of each round. And I'm just going to put a single crochet into this gap right here. And as you can see, it just gives this pointed edge of the lily pad a bit more of a cleaner and finished look. And so now we're just going to keep turning and insert our hook into wherever there's a bit of an open space here along the other pointed edge of the lily pad. And we're just going to single crochet, about 2 single crochets into each double crochet leg until we get down to this other corner where I'll put just one more. You can see how it looks a lot more finished. And to tie this off, I'm just going to insert my hook into the first single crochet of the round and do a slip stitch, so yarn over, pull through, and then pull that loop through the loop on our hook. And then I'm just going to yarn over and pull through as though I'm making a chain and pull that tight again. And then we're going to take our scissors and cut off the tail of our yarn, then pull the tail all the way through. And as you can see, once we pull it tight, we now have our completed lily pad. And now all it's missing is the flower. So we'll set this aside for now, create the flower, and then we'll weave in all of our ends. So to make our flower, we are also going to be making a magic circle, which I hope I explained the first time around well enough that you haven't already given up on completing this project, but I'm going to show you again how to make one. So I'm using my pink yarn and I'm just going to rest it over 2 of my fingers and hold it with my thumb. I'm going to wrap it around my 2 fingers and then cross it over the tail of our yarn. And then I'm going to turn my fingers over once again. So then I have 2 strands laying over my 2 fingers, and then I'm going to rest the yarn over my ring finger and hold it down with my pinky. And then I'm going to insert my hook underneath the right strand, go over the left one, grab it and pull it through, and then I'm going to rotate my hook forward so that then we have a loop on our hook. And then I'm going to go from left to right underneath the working yarn that's being held by my pinky. So we're going to scoop under, and now we're going to pull this through our loop on our hook. Pull through, and then you could pull this tight, pull our fingers out, and now we have 1 chain on our magic circle. And so to do this flower, it's really simple. It's just made up of chains and slip stitches. So now that we already have our first chain on our circle, we are going to add 5 more chains, so we have a total of 6 chains on our circle. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now that we have our 6 chains, we are going to slip stitch back into our magic circle. So we're just going to insert our hook into the circle, grab our yarn by yarning over, pull it through our circle, and then pull this loop through the loop already on our hook. Pull it tight, and so you can see we have the first of 5 petals of our flower. And so from here, I'm just going to keep holding the 2 strands of our magic circle, and I'm going to once again chain 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we're going to slip stitch again into the magic circle. So insert our hook into the circle, yarn over, and pull this through the loop on our hook, and then pull it tight. You can shuffle it all over to the side. So now you can see we have 2 petals of our flower, and we're going to keep repeating this until we have 5. And so now that we have all of our 5 petals, if you haven't already, we're going to pull the loose tail of our magic circle to close the ring. And then from here, I'm going to just do a chain 1 and pull it through into a big loop. And that way we can take our scissors and cut off the working yarn. And then what we'll do is pull the strand all the way through and pull it nice and tight. And that'll give us a nice knot for our flower to make sure it doesn't start unraveling or anything. And what I like to do is take our 2 strands of yarn now, our loose tails, and I just tie them together, tie a quick little knot to make sure that it is nice and secure. And I find that I like the way that the back side of the flower looks more than the front. So what I'm going to do is bring back our lily pad, and we are going to attach this flower. Since we already have 2 strands that are left behind, what I'm going to do is simply you could use your darning needle already for this, or you could just take your crochet hook, and if this is the top side of my lily pad, I'm going to insert my hook into one of the rows of double crochet, and I'm just going to pull through a strand of our pink yarn, so that is now going through the back. And then what I'm going to do is insert my hook in between the space of 2 double crochets right next to the one that we already pulled the first pink strand through. Insert my hook so that's coming through the front, and just use it to pull through the other pink strand until it's all the way through. And then now, when you flip the lily pad over, we should have both of our pink strands wrapped around one of the double crochets. And I'm just going to tie a knot nice and tight, and tie it one more time just to make sure that it is super secure. And honestly, I might even give it one more tie because I'm honestly lazy, and instead of weaving in this end, I'm just going to trim them off since this is the back side. Leave a little bit of space so that it doesn't unravel easily, but trim off. These scissors are super dull. So now we cut off the ends of the pink yarn, and now when we flip it back over, we can see that our flower is now nice and attached to our lily pad. And now all that's left to do is weave in these final tails of the green yarn. And so I'm going to start with this one on the edge by the pink flower, and I'm just going to put our yarn through our needle, and then what I'm going to do is flip it over so that we're looking at the back side of the lily pad, and I'm just going to insert the needle through the back line of single crochets that we did in our final round. You don't have to go through too many. I'm just going through a couple and pull the yarn through. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip one of the loops that we went through and go into the next one and go back through, and then skip this one and go through the same stitches. And then now we can cut off this tail. And now that end is nice and seamlessly weaved in. And now for the original magic circle that we made for the lily pad, we're going to want to make sure that we tie a nice knot so that it does not loosen up over time. So I'm just going to put this yarn into my needle, and what I'm going to do is once I pull it nice and tight, I'm going to just go underneath one of the loops of yarn in the base of the circle, pull it through, and then insert my needle back through this loop so that we could tie a nice knot. And then from here, I just insert the needle through a couple of the stitches similar to how I just showed you. Pull it through. This tail is pretty short, so I'm just going to do it a couple times. Skip one of the loops that I just went through to go back through the same 2. Skip another loop to go back this one. And then you can just weave in between a couple at the very end, just so that they're hidden. You don't really have to follow the way that I weave in ends. This is just how I do it. And then I'm just going to cut off this tail with my super dull little scissors. And there we have it. We have our lily pad coaster all finished and complete. And I think that they look so cute. And I hope my directions were clear and that you enjoyed watching this tutorial. And if you did make this coaster, please let me know in the comments. And if you have any recommendations on what you would like to see me make next, please let me know. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!